In today's demo lesson, I am going to cover emails. I'm going to talk about greetings, I'm going to talk about closings, I'm going to talk about phrases, vocabulary, and acronyms that come up pretty commonly. And I'm also going to give you some time to practice. And I'm also going to show you the homework as well, so you have an idea of what to expect if you take this lesson with me. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. Hey, I'm Michael with Michael's Business English. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Michael Rincon, a former six-figure data analyst turned ESL instructor and career coach. I help non-native English speakers like you with your work life and career to increase your value. If you're new here on this channel, we talk about business English, communications, and career development. So if you're into that, make sure you like and subscribe. And all the descriptions mentioned in this video can be found in the comment section below. All right, so today's business English lesson is on business emails, and the objectives for today's class are to use common vocabulary around business emails, including greetings, closings, stating the purpose of the email, to introduce some common verbs used in an email language, such as attach, forward, reply, archive, to practice some common phrases used in emails, such as follow up, touch base, feel free, and to introduce some common email acronyms such as ASAP, BTW, FYI. Right, let's begin. Okay, so first we're going to cover greetings. Greetings are how you start an email. It's a way of saying hello, and how you use an email greeting will depend on how well you know the person. So there's basically formal, which is more business-like, and then there's less formal or informal, which is for more personal messages. Now, it's not black and white, meaning that it's not like there's formal and informal. It's more like a spectrum. So the examples we have here are the most formal and the least formal. So you'll typically want to use a formal greeting when you don't know the person well and it's someone important. So you might want to use this for a client or a boss that you haven't spoken to. So you'll use the title, like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, and then their last name. So dear Mr. Jones, dear Dr. Peters, dear Miss Brown. Less formally, you'll use this with someone you know for a while. Use their first name. So hey James, hey Mike, hey everyone, hey guys. Now, remember, like I said, it's a spectrum because in the workplace, I don't normally see people say, dear Mr. Jones. Like, none of my employees would ever call me Mr. Rincon. They call me Mike. That's just how I am. It depends on your workplace culture, how are you going to do it. Even when I was working at the banks, when I was working in financial services as an analyst, I still never referred to people by their last name. I would say, hey Alan. Even if Alan was the big boss, I still refer to him by his first name, because even though it's a business like it is pretty formal, it's not so formal that I have to go all the way to the top of the formality list. So understand workplace culture when thinking about the greetings. Now, closing is how you end an email. This is kind of like how you say goodbye. This is how you let someone know you're signing off. So the closing you choose, again, is formal and less formal or informal. And the same difference is up to you how you want to use it. A formal closing that you would use for someone you don't know very well could be things like respectfully yours truly, kind regards, sincerely, warm wishes. Versus less formal, to people you know well, could be regards, cheers, best regards, best, thanks is another one I see often. Talk to you soon. Have a good day. See you next week. Whatever. Like, you see what I mean? Like, again, it's a spectrum. Don't think of it like black and white as informal and informal or less formal. Think of it in terms of there's a range of formality you can use. Now, typically speaking, I like sincerely or best regards, even though these are they're formal and informal according to this PowerPoint deck, according to this class. My opinion is that both of them work equally well in pretty much any scenario. So I like to use sincerely, I like to use best regards. Sometimes I should say thanks, because it depends on the person. Now, again, it's up to you how you use it. If you look at my cover letters, if you're in my resume CV masterclass, you see I have cover letter templates in there. And you will see like how I sign off my cover letter is a little bit more formal because I don't know the person in the cover letter. Here we have some more examples of how to do some greetings. So after you introduce yourself, you say hello to the person. It's like, dear Mr. So-and-so, or hey, James. You typically use another greeting to add on to that, just to say like, hope you have a good week. Thank you for your email. Thank you for your prompt reply. Hope you're doing well is what I like to use. Hope you have happy holidays. This is the holidays. It was a pleasure meeting you at the conference last week. Typically, you'll want to use something that kind of is relative, so it kind of like it's kind of like small talk. If you've been to the networking module, been to the networking business English lesson, it's the same kind of thing. Is that it should be very light, just kind of like warming up the person so they don't feel like you're trying to sell them on whatever. You make them feel like they matter. It's important to do this so that they don't get overwhelmed. Compliments are really good too. Like, so what I've seen people do on a side note is like, your resume was impressive, right? That's something I've seen recruiters do with me. That kind of like, that's a really good way to say something like after like, hi Mike, good, or hello Mr. Rincon, like your resume was impressive, your profile was impressive, so you might want to look at compliments as well. Stating the purpose of the email, this is basically how you would say, what are you talking about? So this is kind of to set the framework, so it kind of like the stage saying what you're going to do. So one way to do it is after a short opening, you would state the main point. So after your greeting, you would just say, like, I'm writing to inquire about, or we would like to invite you to, or I am interested in the job posting opening on your posted on your website. It's something you could use if you're using bad news. After careful, it's something you may have seen if you've been rejected. After careful consideration, we have decided, right? It's setting the framework so you know. So it's not like dropping like the main target, the main thing you're gonna do. So like, I'm interested in the job opening post on your website. Then you go into detail about it. This would be a cover letter. It's a good example. Or I'm writing to inquire about, or we would like to invite you to an event or whatever, right? So you understand this is you're easing into the main purpose. So then after you write out your actual email, you write down what you're going to write. You're going to the main topics, whatever you need to talk about. This is your closing email remarks. So this is kind of like reminders or requests. So some common phrases you'll see is like, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any further questions. Thank you for taking this into consideration. It's something I use in my cover letter when I'm sending out when I was looking for jobs. I appreciate any feedback you have. Please respond at your early convenience. I look forward to seeing you or talking to you soon. So again, it's just before the final remark. It's something that's like just a way of getting them closing it out smoothly, so it's not like an abrupt closer. So you're not just like shutting it down immediately, just kind of warming them up to the fact that you're just letting them know you're about to end the email. So here's some phrases that you might see. So here's an example. Is it common in your country to send an email to follow up after a job interview? What we're trying to do here is we're trying to ask you about your culture, trying to learn more about you, because each culture has different practices. And this might also be kind of like epiphanies for you. You might realize like, oh, maybe I should be doing this kind of stuff. How often do you touch base with your boss? Do you feel free to arrive at work anytime you want, right? So are these vocabulary words that you're familiar with? If not, let me know. If you don't know, if you do know, let me know what you think it means, and we can talk about that. Okay, so next I wanted to cover email vocabulary verbs. So what I'd like you to do is look at these vocabulary and match them with the proper meaning. So attach, forward, reply, archive, and acquire. And I'd like you to tell me what these different words mean. So attach, does that mean write back or send a response to an email? Does that mean the act of organizing, storing, and saving of documents? Does that mean ask about? Does that mean send an email on to a further destination? Or does that mean fasten a related document to an email? And so for all of these, I want you to give me the proper meaning. So attach, for example, is fasten a related document to an email. Let's see, what else do we do? So forward is that write back, the act of organizing, ask about, or send an email to a further destination. How about reply? Is that write back, act of organizing, ask about, send an email. Now, do your best to give me an answer. I'm going to move on so we don't spend too much time. Now, here is how you use forward, attach, and reply with other words. So this is actually going to help if you struggled with the previous slide. You can get some answers here. The verb forward can be followed by a direct object or a direct and indirect object. So please forward me the email, or please forward the email to me. Please forward the email. See how the different ways you can do it? The verb attach is followed directly by a direct object. I attached the document. The verb reply may take no object or an indirect object, right? So please reply as soon as possible, or please reply to the email as soon as possible. Okay, we're going to cover acronyms now. For those who don't know what acronyms are a short way of rephrasing a word or sentence into something very quick and easy that people can just see. Now, a lot of these are universal acronyms, meaning that most people know what they mean. Sometimes in certain companies, you'll see that there are certain acronyms that are being used internally. Generally speaking, you'll want these acronyms are okay, but there will be some acronyms in your company and your team that you may have to kind of think about before you use. The other thing I would say is that you might want to think about who your audience is and whether it makes sense to use an acronym or not. So acronyms are pretty informal. Sometimes it's okay to do it, but typically an acronym is considered pretty informal. There are certain exceptions. So for example, I would say RSVP, CC, BCC, and RE. These are what I would consider to be okay to use in formal situations, meaning like if someone says CC so-and-so, like that's okay to say that without having to spell it out, without having to actually explain the actual word. So CC, for those who don't know what that is called carbon copy, and you use this function to send an email to people other than the primary person, though they're not expected to take action. So for example, if someone sends me an email and they copy my boss on it, like they don't expect my boss who's CC'd to take action. They expect me to take action, but they want my boss to be aware of it. That way the boss is in the loop, so to speak. Now, let me know if you have any questions about any of these acronyms and what they mean. Okay, to conclude this lesson on emails, let's go look at the homework real quick so you have an idea of what to expect. So the first section is to read each question and select the best answer based on the choices. So for example, which is an example of a formal email greeting, right? A formal email greeting. Dear Mrs. Huron, hello everyone. Hi Valerie, dear all. So if you remember from the training, like I did say that there's a huge spectrum, but for the purpose of this class, they want to know what is the absolute most formal email available. Is it hi, hello, dear Ms. Viren, or is it dear everybody, dear all? What is an informal closing to an email? Is it sincerely, cheers, kind regards, respectfully yours? Remember that it's informal, meaning casual. It's something that was probably not something you'd say to the president. It's always something you'd say to your best friend. So like sincerely, like would you say that to your friend? Like say, John, it's so great to see you again. Can't wait to see you for tomorrow's potluck. Sincerely, or how about cheers? Or what kind regards? Like think about that. If you're not sure, remember to go ahead and Google or go back through the slides, go back to the video so that you can refresh your memory. Because remember, the goal is to find out what gaps you have and use those to help you learn. So if you don't know these terms, go Google them, go online, go research and say, what does kind regards mean? What is respectfully yours? Because that is how you will build masteries through repetition. Which of the following states the principal point of an email, right? So thanks for all the help over the last few months. I'm writing to inform you that I decided to end my employment immediately. It's a pleasure meeting with you today. Best wishes. To back up, so I don't remember if we covered this, but principal point, what that would mean. So I don't know what principal means off the top of my head. I'll just be brutally honest. I know what principal means. Principal is typically the principal of a school. However, if I derive the meaning of principal from this sentence, I'm going to assume that principal means like the main point, like the key point, because the principal in a school is usually the key player. He's like the big boss. So principal might be the main point that they're trying to make. So I would assume, so I'm not going to tell you the answer because I don't know the answer, first of all. And secondly, that's up for you, right? Remember, like, now mind you, go back to the course and double check it to see what they would suggest if you're not sure. I believe I know which one it is. Do you know which one it is? Can you guess? Let's keep going. Here's some more multiple choice. Words, describe. We didn't cover that one. Write a response. Which of the following means to write a response to an email? Is it attach, forward, reply, or inquire? So we actually did this one. We didn't go into detail. I didn't explain which one was the answer. I didn't tell you the answer to that one. So hopefully you know, but if not, you gotta take this lesson. Okay, so here's the writing portion. You would like to invite a client to a business dinner. Write the first 2 sentences of an email, include a formal greeting, and state the point of your email. So remember, feel free to go back to the demo lesson because it's recorded. Go back and watch when we talked about greetings. We talked about, how to say a formal greeting and what we said in that. What kind of vocabulary can you use? And remember what I said is that it's a spectrum. So feel free to experiment because if you make a mistake, if you do it wrong, I'll give you feedback and I'll tell you why I think you could have done this differently. And write an email for the situation below. You are organizing a conference that takes place in 2 weeks. You're writing an email to request the CEO of the company to make a speech at the opening ceremony for the conference. Use formal language. Be apologetic for giving only 2 weeks notice. So this is a free-form exercise again. So use everything that you know to do the best you can, and I will give you feedback on this exercise. All right, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this demo lesson. Make sure you send me a DM or an email, or just if you have any questions. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.